Yeah, I'm lying about that. Yeah.
She showed me pictures.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I talked about, I did an article where I brought up some scrubbed news reports talking about Ghislaine and Andrew way before they said they officially met. And I also heard from someone that Epstein was in London a lot in the 80s and that he had met Prince Andrew at some point during his time in London in the 80s. And he was apparently dating Ghislaine in the 80s. Even though they claim they met in the early 90s and all this stuff. So I know they're all lying. So trying to figure out how much they knew. I mean, any of that information is really helpful. So.
Right. And she grew up with the royals. Like, she showed me all the photo albums. Well, she also knew Fergie, like, a long, long time ago. Because I saw pictures of her super young with Fergie before she was ever married to Prince Andrew. And I mean, it was weird. It's like somehow she knew a lot of these people. Now, she knew Prince Andrew when they were definitely like, I mean, she looked maybe 20 in some of these pictures, or maybe younger than that even, with Prince Andrew. And so I can date some of it by telling you that some of the photographs where they're all super young, they were making fun. I'm not kidding you. The pictures of Diana when she was just dating the prince, and Diana's in the corner crying in some of these pictures, and Ghislaine's like, look there, we made her cry. Isn't that funny? We hated Diana. That's what she said. And I was like, oh my God, that's horrible.
I just don't think I have as many supporters in that environment than I did.
You mean within the royal household?
They see me as a threat of some kind.
Ghislaine answers to Wexner. I know that for a fact.
So you think she answers more to
that's how I knew he was
Wexner than like, I don't know, like Israeli intelligence where her dad worked, right? Do you think she's more like under Wexner than?
Right. No, I know she's Israeli. Yeah. Well, Wexner is Israeli intelligence, 100%. And I believe that. I mean, there's no way it was just a sign. It was a sign that she would be under him, and I know that's where she got all of her funding to do this scam with Epstein. I know that. Well, the thing that's so gross is that the FBI is complicit. You're the only one who cares about how it all began. That's what's so important.
That's where it is. I mean, that's where the real story is. I mean, that's how you find out how extensive it is.
That's the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's all out of Israel. I'm going to tell you what Ghislaine told me about her dad. Because, I knew her right after he died. Like, I think he'd only died, like, 2 years before.
He died in 91.
She was constantly grieving for him, right? She was constantly still in grief. And Epstein, okay, so she would tell the story that her dad had Epstein protecting her. And I'm like, wait, what? This is weird. So she would say that Epstein was kind of assigned to her to take care of her because her dad, like right before her dad passed away.
Take me back to this 1980s, because Ari Ben-Menashe says that's when Ghislaine was smitten by Jeffrey Epstein, and Robert Maxwell brings her in, and then him in, Jeffrey Epstein in, to introduce him to Ari Ben-Menashe and says, we want this guy to work for us doing Iran-Contra. Can you confirm any of those details?
I can help you understand the timeline and who participated with Jeffrey Epstein and how he became a spy and what he did when he became a spy. I can help you in all those areas because I was there.
You were there?
Did
he tell you? Did he tell you I'm a spy? Did he go and say I'm working for the Israelis?
Yes. He told me that he was a spy. He was fully aware that I was asked to join to be a spy, and that I rejected the request.
So Douglas Leese asked you to join them and be a spy, and you said, no, I don't want to have anything to do with that.
I rejected the request of the spying.
Okay.
Jeffrey Epstein accepted the request of the spying, and he further cemented his opportunity in espionage when he met Ghislaine Maxwell and entered into a serious relationship with her as a lady-man relationship that was a very strong bond between them, a very powerful and dynamic work relationship between the two of them, and they've admitted to the public that they took over Robert Maxwell's spying records, operations, and moved that to Florida, to Jeffrey Epstein's house. That's been admitted. That's a fact.
He and Epstein were involved in laundering about 1.5 billion, I think it is. And Hoffenberg ended up in upstate New York in a federal prison. And he was there at the time that Epstein was in Florida being charged. So Ghislaine Maxwell had she was the glue. She was
Although
the
Epstein
fixer.
was with Les Wexner at the time, right?
Yes, he was. He was with people called the mega group. I mean, these group of big sort of businessmen who are linked to Israel. Some would say they're sort of the rich Zionists in America. But I think that if as I believe, Epstein more than likely was connected to Mossad, she was too. And I think that she would have been used as the bait. My personal feeling, I think that she helped Epstein moved in that kind of direction. In other words, where he wasn't just sort of the money guy, kind of crooked money guy. He was a money guy who could actually help Israel.
But her dad knew him.
Right.
I thought that was really strange.
A guy that used to work for Israeli intelligence with Robert Maxwell told me that he had seen Jeffrey Epstein in Maxwell's office in like the mid 80s. So that definitely goes back several years.
Part of the business too? Was she involved in what you were doing over there?
No. But later on, she got involved with Israeli intelligence together with him.
Right.
But not in this arms deal in Iran or business.
Would you say she was an agent as well? Was she someone working for Israeli intelligence?
Oh, definitely.
Military intelligence as well?
Yes.
And when that happens, because I have no idea how that world works, so I'm learning a little bit.
It happened by accident.
Do you get orders and you have to do certain things, or is it more like...
No, you get projects. What really happened, my take on it, and the later thing, is that these guys were seen as agents. And so they found a niche for themselves, blackmailing American and other political figures.
For the Israelis? So it's hard for people to understand why Israel would want to get blackmail on an American. I'm asking a question that I can answer it probably, but for most people, it's hard for them to think about Israel as being blackmailing their leaders in the United States. It's a very...
It was quite their MO.
En dan de Mossad en Clinton. Begin 97 ontdekt de FBI dat de Mossad een spion heeft in het Witte Huis. Iemand op een hoge positie met de codenaam Mega. De FBI begint een klopjacht, maar moet daarmee stoppen. De Mossad chanteert het Witte Huis.
So they set up an operation outside Monica's apartment, and they bugged it. And they picked up some 30 hours of phone sex between the president and Mr. Lewinsky.
30 hours?
About 30 hours, yeah. And those are all taken back to Tel Aviv. Mossad probably remains still top of the pile because it's never lost its war footing mentality. Mossad also has, in a sense, an easier role to play in a way because it says first, last, and always Israel, always. And anything that only affects Israel is what interested primarily.